we usually have where we usually have experts from the industry join and share their wisdom with us, with product management aspirants primarily, and and of course help them on the journey to become to crack their first product management rules. Today, that expert is me. I run PM School along with Ankit and Nikunj. We are Asia's largest product community today, and quite happy to be here to be sharing my wisdom on how to build B2B specific. How do we specifically build B2B products, and how does B2B product management differ from B2C? Because most of what other product communities and even other product upskilling platforms provide today is a very comprehensive skill set to help you get better in building B2C products, but B2B is generally neglected. So today I'm here to demystify some of the requirements for or nuances for you to become effective product managers in B2B space. And you can keep all of these principles in mind when you're applying for your for a B2B company as well to bag your product role. So we're going to keep this session interactive. So keep dropping in your questions as and when you have them, and I will be taking very strategic pauses to cover some of them. Otherwise, we have time towards the end to cover all of your questions. Super. I'll share my screen. Let me know if it comes up. I've been facing some challenges with my bandwidth. I'm gonna okay. Yeah, let me know if you can see.
Yeah, for sure, we can.
Great. So let's begin. All right. B2B product management. So let's start with the fundamentals, right? What is the fundamental difference between a B2B product or a B2C product? Let's take an example of a B2C product, a tool like Snapchat. So I'll cover the B2C aspects, then we'll move to the B2B because it's easier to then relate some of these features or attributes to B2B. So in the B2C space, you usually solve a specific need, want, or desire for an individual user, right? You usually have to B2C, the barrier to enter the market in terms of building a product is very low. Hence, you face a lot of competition, and hence you have to stand out in terms of how you look and how you perform as well in terms of getting a problem solved for a particular user using your product, right? So a lot of emphasis is given on wanting to address very individual specific needs. And on the flip side, let's take a B2B example, right? Zoho is a suite of products to help companies and enterprises manage their company's operations effectively, right? So here it addresses very specific functions or roles within the organization. It's not very specific to one individual user, right? Another, I would say, caveat is B2B products have to seamlessly integrate within existing systems. It cannot exist in isolation. It cannot exist as a standalone product within the organization. It has to be connected to all things which people do, right? And in terms of the value to the company itself, the value proposition has to increase over time. If your product does not improve value over time, you are not favored compared to other product which gives you value over time. I'll cover what value over time is in some time. And we touched upon ROI, and of course, security and privacy is paramount. If you're you have to keep that in mind when you're designing B2B features, products, and improvements as well. So let's talk about a typical enterprise B2B customer journey, right? So everything starts with the prospecting for leads. Here the leads, right? And within the company, there's very specific roles of users and buyers. So you have to be attractive as a product to both of these type of user personas to be able to get an in into your company, right? And what happens, right? You identify your ICP, you identify who you're building the product for, you reach out to them, right? That's the initial contact. You share your pitch deck, you do a demo, and once you're qualified, right, as something which you can add value for that particular company and a function in the company, you present like an offer. So if you go to any B2B platform pricing page, right? So they start with single user, small companies, large companies, and enterprises contact us for pricing, correct? So B2B, the pricing is very flexible, for especially if you like, as you scale, your users in a particular product or in a particular company, the cost becomes prohibitive if you have per user costing. So you usually tailor fit a very specific cost for a particular company based on their requirements. So the pricing is very loosely defined here, or not very tightly defined as, let's say, a B2C product where it's either free or you pay X dollars to get it, right? That's it. So you present an offer, there's negotiation happening since sometimes again, not all of your products. Sometimes SaaS products can be like just purchased like with a click of a button as well. So this step is optional and depends on who you're targeting, how complex your product is, and what's your pricing strategy and business model. Once you close the deal, you onboard the customer, everything's going great, and your product is adding value to the company. Then you ask for reference and you get more leads. So B2B is a very referral-driven game. Even B2C up to a great degree is, word of mouth is a form of referral, right? But in B2B, you primarily survive sometimes for some of the products with word of mouth referrals only, at least in the initial phase. So let's deep dive into a little bit about the B2B customer journey. This is great. If you understand this journey, you will have a better understanding about the questions you anticipate as part of your like B2B interviews, B2B product interviews, as well as it will help you take a step back. And when you're given like a case study to improve a specific product, a pre-existing product or a feature, you'll be able to use this framework very effectively. So first is a discovery and pre-sales call in your customer journey. What that means is, I have a product, I have a company who might be a target customer. Now you have to bridge the gap of understanding, right? The company has to understand what your product does and how it fits into their workflows. So you start by, obviously, the company asks you a bunch of information, you share it, then you do a demo, and then you obviously ask for reference. The company asks for reference check, talk about commercials, and the first leg of the onboarding journey is done. Then what comes is implementation and go live, right? So this is a tricky bit. Sorry. This is quite tricky. And what I mean by tricky is when you're planning the implementation and go live, you have to ensure your product fits very well into pre-existing workflows. Otherwise, your product will not be successful. No one is going to learn a new habit for a particular new product or a feature in their pre-existing jobs if the incentives are not high enough. You have to make the effort to ensure your product fits into existing users' workflows and journeys, not the other way around, right? So once you understand where your product will fit, how people will access it, what processes do you need to adhere to, how do you explain to people that this is a new product which is going to come in, is going to work. This is what the features are. Ask any question. These are the guys who are going to support you, etc. You plan a go live, and here you usually pilot for a couple of weeks, months, depends on complexity of the product, how big the company is, who you're targeting within the company. So once the pilot goes well, then you can plan for going live for the rest of the company. And once you go live, of course, you have to constantly give support. B2B companies are, I would say, less forgiving than B2C users because companies themselves have to be compliant with some regulations. So obviously, any bug, any potential security breach, etc., has to be addressed in record time for you to continue to have faith, for the company to have faith in your product, right? And if your product is mission critical for the company, then you can never have a downtime. And if you have a downtime, you have to fix it within hours instead of days or weeks, right? So there are very stringent requirements for SLAs, which is expected. And once a new product is released, new feature is released, you continue like communicating that, you know what, this is what's improved, blah, 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 and continue building on top of it. And of course, once the company is using your product, they're happy. They obviously will be happy to recommend you to peers in the industry, so you get more clients. Outside the company, or even within the company, if you think about it, if one department starts using it, they're liking it, you can make a case to approach other departments to onboard your product into their teams as well, right? That is one way how you can upsell within the organization itself, or you can upsell by having an adjacent product. So you started with, I would say, an HR tool, human resources tool, right? Now, what happens next is once your human resource tools is onboarded, you might even pitch, you know what, I have like a sort of custom product for sales teams, which fits into your existing human resource tool, HR tool itself. So like, but for $5 a month extra per user, you can start using this product as well, because you love this product, you are going to like this as well. So that's how you upsell and cross-sell your product within the company. So what are the enterprise customer expectations from a B2B product, right? As we discussed, ability to fit into existing workflows and processes. It has to integrate well into, additionally, into the IT ecosystem of these companies. As I mentioned, no product can be standalone within companies. It has to fit into existing framework, existing boundaries within the company, within which the company operates. Of course, if it's an international company, your product should easily scale over time, geographies, etc. We talked about having appropriate SLAs, service level agreements in place. Essentially, you're saying if this is the severity of the bug, you'll fix it in X number of hours. Or if it's a less severe bug, you'll fix it in X number of days. But then you have to adhere to it. If you do not adhere to it, you might be even penalized in terms of you losing the contract or the company not paying you. And of course, compliance and security is at the heart of what your product is expected to do. We'll take a question or two.
We have one question on the chat, Vishal.
Sorry. Difference between users and buyers in enterprise B2B customer journeys. It's a great question, Shalini. So as you can imagine, right? If you're selling, let's say you're a product manager, you're heading product for an HR tool. Who are your users? HR department, correct? But HR department has its own functions in place. They have to manage employees, their salary, their well-being, KT, etc., etc. As you can imagine, right? They might not have access to budgets. They might request for budget, but the actual person who pays for your product could be a CFO or a CEO, right? So your product has to appeal to both. For the CFO, it has to appeal from price point of view and value point of view and ROI point of view, right? For the HR team, primarily, the product has to work out of the box for them, right? So that is like an example of the difference between user personas within an organization. Cool. Let's continue. We'll have more gaps for timeline for questions in a bit. So yeah, role-based permissions, right? What do you have? What are the must-haves you need to have for enterprise-focused B2B products? So role-based permission accesses is a must. What I mean by that is not your product is going to be complex. You start off as a simple tool for companies to start with, but trust me, as you continue to grow, you keep adding complexity to your product, and that will involve you building a lot of modules. Not all modules have to be accessible for everyone. For example, again, I go back to the HR tool. If you're managing employee data, except for the HR team, no one should have access to it, right? And within the HR team, not everyone should have access to write or delete or modify the data. Only few people must have it. So that is role-based permission accesses, right? An example of it. Whoever is making changes in a system needs to be tracked for audit purposes. So all of these companies usually have very stringent audit specifications, or they are subject to a lot of audits, ISO, GDPR, etc., right? So as a mandate for such, I would say, audits to happen, you need to have like an audit trail to, so you're tracking like, what do you call that, activity within your platform. And of course, you need to have like reporting, and generating reports is something which everyone asks for from a B2B tool. And to be honest, if you're, let's take the HR tool, for example, right? Not everyone needs to have access to reports. It could just be the top level management folks, right? An HR executive need not have access to all the reports as well. So it totally depends on who the users are, but reporting is something which is baked into your product. Workflows, right? And ability to like fit into existing workflows and data structures is something which is expected. What I mean by that is, let's say you built, obviously, let's take the HR tool, for example. You want to let's say you're doing something manually. You're onboarding a user, you're sending an email out with all the details, right? Now, what you can do is you can set up that workflow in your tool. So once someone gets onboarded and they're marked as active, automatically your via integration, right, with your mailing tool, you send that onboarding email out to the newcomer, right? Yeah, this is a small example of kind of workflows you have to support out of the box. And if you're obviously building for something global, you need to obviously support multiple languages, currencies, time zones, and local compliance as well. So how do you think about building roadmaps in the B2B space, right? So we've bucketed this thought into like four major themes. Looking at your competitors, what are they doing? What are your own vision for your product? Customers who are asking for specific features. In the beginning of your B2B product journey, you are obviously you are like you will be like fighting for like survival of your product and your company, right? In that case, you will have to ensure, right, that you cater to your initial customers very well, and you work very closely with designing your first version of the product as well. And finally, product debt. Like, what do you carry as burden to be fixed later in the product? And this varies whether the product is in early stage or later. In the initial stages, as I mentioned, the customer, you rely all of your future survival of your product depends on the couple of customers you onboard and how closely you work with them. So your roadmap is determined by your customers' asks early on, right? And of course, you have like some competitors to look at. You're not too big in the market to have competitors. You have some vision, but you're crafting the vision based on the feedback you're getting from the market, which is your customers. When you are moving into mature stage, right, you have to tone down the asks coming from your customers, but you have to wrap it with your own product vision. So you've been in the market for some time, and your features should not be I would say determined by a couple of customers who want to work on your roadmap, or who want their features on your roadmap. So you have to take a step back. You want to like build for the world, build for like a larger audience, and not all companies are similar, right? So every company has its own unique needs. So you have to like bring all of that information, tie it, compare it with whether it matches the product vision, where you want to take the product, and focus on that more than just building anything which comes your way, because that's not viable. And of course, you continue to compete with your benchmark with your competitors, and you start carrying some product debt as well. So how would companies evaluate taking your product, right? They either decide whether they want to build in-house or buy, whether they want to build okay. So common decision points in these are two things, right? One is what customers look at you for, and how you think about building a product yourself as a B2B product leader here. So the dangerous, I would say, game which some B2B companies, startups play is they optimize for building fast and optimize for building right. It is a sure shot way to kill your company. Because B2B companies or companies do not tolerate buggy software, and especially not if there's compromise of potential compromise of security or data compliance as well. You have to be very careful you're not breaking things while you're moving fast as well. So feature versus stability comes into play. And of course, what you would be asking is, should I continue enhancing a particular feature, or revamping something else as well, the same feature as well in a different way. And this is a question which companies have: do they have to migrate to your product, or can you just maintain it? Right? What I mean by that is, migrate versus maintain is a question which comes to all companies. They might have something which they're already pre-existing, right? Or pre-use, like they're using already. Should they continue to maintain that software, or should they migrate to something new which you're offering? So these are the questions, which companies and you have to consider as decision-making points for adopting a particular product. So what changes we're building for small and medium-sized businesses? So these are software as a service tools, right? They're not enterprise platforms when you're building for small and medium-sized businesses typically. So you will have a lot of self-serve options. Like you want to reduce your customer acquisition cost. You want to reduce the cost of onboarding a customer as well. You can't have a person talking to a company 60 minutes, a salesperson 60 minutes over a 60-minute call to onboard a customer who's paying $10 per month, correct? So you would want to these companies to just onboard themselves and start paying. Focus on flexibility, then controlling it. Give them a lot of options to customize, configure themselves, and you take yourself out of the loop there. UX comes into play here because you're now tailoring to very specific individual users within companies than teams in companies, right? So UX definitely comes into play. This is one of the most underrated things in B2B product management today. They don't focus on UX as much as B2C platforms. A lot of in-app guides and configurations can help you, accelerate getting more users on board fast in the SMB place. So in terms of metrics, what should you be tracking, right? So we have something called revenue by module. So you're tracking how much a particular piece of module software does within your ecosystem of products within the platform. So you want to track revenue by module, new users, new revenue coming in, people who are percentage of people who are renewing it, was upselling within that same module itself, right? NPS by modular product area. This is a no-brainer. NPS stands for Net Promoter Score. This is how much a user or a team likes your product, and it's rated between 1 to 10, 10 being the best, and something which individual users would go out of their way to recommend to someone else. Your churn has to be very low. B2B products, you literally have your customers in front of you. You know them, you can talk to them, and you can address their problems immediately. So if someone's on board and start using your product, it'll be very foolish to lose them by you not having very specific cadence of getting the feedback in and addressing this feedback effectively as well, along with the customer. So the churn has to be very low. 10% is considered ideal. Less than 10% is considered ideal for SaaS platforms. And referral rates, right? Like how often do customers, refer customers, other customers on your software? You pause for a minute to answer any questions. There are no wrong answers, folks. Those are wrong questions. So, competitor benchmarking, could you please explain? Sure, Shalini. So what competitor benchmarking means typically is you are competing, your product definitely, especially if you're not very early in the game, it would not be the only unique product in that category. For example, if you're selling HR software, there would be other HR softwares as well available. you constantly keep an eye on what, and you might have like a bunch of competitors, right? You constantly keep an eye on what's working for these competitors and how different they are like positioning themselves in terms of having specific features, unique value propositions, etc., etc. So you're benchmarking your product and features against what the competitor offers, and you're doing like a feature by feature comparison, including pricing, right? Then you know where your product stands globally or like in that space. That is what competitive benchmarking means. All right, if there are no further questions, let's move on. Who would be your key stakeholders to engage within an organization, right? So, as a product manager, as a B2B product manager, so your stakeholders are not too different from a B2C customers, except how much time you spend with each of these stakeholders will vary. So, first things first, right? So, engineering, of course, you'll have to like interface with engineering. You'll work really closely with them. Uh, Pre-sales and sales and product marketing is who you will be spending a lot of time with, because you will be co-creating a lot of these demos, like POCs, sandbox environments for them, so that they can go sell the platform effectively. So, and also designing the material, copy, etc., etc. So a lot of your energy goes into like working with pre-sales and sales. Customer success as well. Customer success, because that is your usual ongoing part of your job. However, in this case, you have direct access to customers as well. And along with customer success, you ensure you get the right information in so that you can make your product decisions. And of course, you work with your customers. You literally can call your customer and ask them what's working, what's not working. That's the beauty of working in B2B space, right? The sample set of these customers will be small enough for you to meaningfully take information out, as compared to, let's say, B2C. If you have a million users, you really cannot target like 100,000 of them or 10% of them to get your feedback directly, right, over a call. So that's how you slightly vary your energy spent by talking to customers in the B2B space. You work with a lot of analysts. As a B2B product manager, you're expected to know or have a good foot in understanding your industry. Very important. And hence you have to like talk to a lot of analysts, understand what the trends are, where the market is going, etc., etc. All right. So in terms of traits required to be successful B2B versus B2C product managers, right? You need to have deep industry knowledge. We just covered that. You have to have a very clear vision. You can't build everything for everyone. Imagine 10 companies coming to you and giving you 10 feature requests, and each feature request takes a month to build, right? Your year is gone in addressing these 10 feature requests from companies. You can't build everything for everyone, and assume that they're unique in nature. So you can't like overlap features as well. So you have to like hard prioritize, and you have to like stand out in noise, which is the market, by having very specific value propositions and a clear vision. You will have to customize your product to very specific customers, and you have to do it without adding complexity to your product. While it is mostly the challenge of the engineering teams, it is your job and responsibility to ensure you are not introducing unnecessary complexity from a product decision making point of view, right? And please be wary of very specific customers dictating or influencing a roadmap, especially initially on. So it's a very dangerous path to go down. You have to like get really good at managing expectations. So your people skill has to be higher in terms of benchmark than a B2C as a B2C customer, because a B2C product manager, because you're not interfacing with the customer directly in B2C as much as you are doing in B2B. Sometimes you are put in a room where you're talking to company executives and they to commit to a particular feature to be built, but you have to like take a look at your vision, your roadmap, and sometimes you have to say no. And for that, you have to like build a lot of people management skills. And of course, you have to like really plan out your releases. Any change in your product will impact like a lot of functions and team members. They have to be notified before you make a change. And you have to sometimes get a sign in that you're making a change as well. So you have to you can't release every week, right? So you have to be wary about how you plan out these releases. Customers could be in thousands. What I mean by customers here are companies, and companies can have X number of employees. So that's how you scale your product. So in B2C product management, you rely a lot more on experimentation, usability, behavioral science, and data analytic instincts. You focus on individual buyers here more than obviously a company or a team. And you have to have the curiosity to chase data to obtain unique insights. Customers can go up to millions of users, and you have to obviously keep releasing new features to stay ahead of the game, either by delighting your customers or staying a step ahead of your competitors as well. And in terms of popular tools being used, right? So in B2B products, as you can see, what are used regularly is prototypes. I just talked about how you have to build prototypes, POCs, to get the message, and sandbox environments to get the message across of what your product is going to look and feel like for companies to use it and make a decision on, right? You heavily rely on user feedback. There is no, I would say, two ways about it. And of course, you have to balance your roadmap very well. It's not much about experimentation here. You're not playing a volume game that you need to build A/B testing frameworks for it. You don't worry too much about user onboarding. Your customer is right there. So you can just write a user manual and help them, guide them through onboarding yourself. And analytics continues to obviously you have to keep an eye on what's happening. And as you can contrast what B2C product managers do as well, right? So in the B2C product management space, as you can see, experimentation takes the norm. You have to constantly, with a large scale, a large audience, figure out what's happening, right? So you have to constantly experiment to see what's working, what's not working. A lot of focus on user onboarding. You can't call a user and tell them, if they're stuck somewhere, that, can you do this so that you can fix it and you can onboard yourself? That can't happen. So you have to design your user journeys very well. Analytics, of course, user tracking is already a part of it, a part of your job specifications. And prototyping is something which you occasionally do as a B2C product manager. All right. I think with that, we call a wrap to the B2B session, B2B product management session. We will open up the rest of the time for questions. Please do call out if there is a specific, I would say, topic in today's presentation which you would want me to cover. Additionally, or if you have specific questions about, happy to pause and address them as well. All right, a great question from LinkedIn. How does this work in a two-sided marketplace? I'm not entirely sure which slide you're referring to, but I am assuming the B2B versus B2C comparison slide, if I'm not mistaken. Whoever has addressed this question on, can you just clarify? Really, if the person clarifies, you can just drop it here.
Yeah, Prashant. I'm waiting for the response.
Yep. In the meantime, folks, any questions I can help with, please do drop them.
Yes, it's the same slide. B2B plus B2C comparison.
All right. How does this work in a two-sided marketplace, right? Mm. So I am still trying to like wrap exactly what the context was when you had asked this. So if you're talking about a two-sided marketplace, right? Uh, Typically you have to like isolate like what kind of user persons are you targeting. Sometimes on the buy side, on the buyer side, right? You might have like individuals who are buying a product from a marketplace. On the sell side, you might have companies. So technically speaking, you are actually working with a B2B2C platform in that case, right? So totally depends on what your customer, who your customers are, what your product is, what the value proposition is for them. So if it is a B2B2C product, right, which I have worked on a few of them in my career, um, typically you have to embody. Typically you have like different PMs fielding B2B and B2C sides uniquely. Sometimes you're required to do both. Then you have to wear both hats in that case. What's the difference in digital transformation and B2B product management? So digital transformation is an extremely broad term, Vaibhav, and which can mean any number of things, to be honest. So it could be, you're just moving, let's say, your data from your servers, which are housed in the office premises, to the cloud. Now, that could be a definition of digital transformation as well, right? So the scope of digital transformation can mean anything. If you're digitizing your operations of your product, of your company via products, now that is more on the in the product space, right? Which you would be interested in as product manager. There again, are you the one responsible for doing a digital transformation? Are you expected to like bring in tools to help you do that? All of those questions are open-ended, right? Um, so B2B product management is very straightforward in that case, in comparison. So you are responsible for a product which businesses will use. That's your job as a B2B product manager, right? So you have customers you're targeting. There is a space which you are like operating in, and that's it. You have to like ensure your product succeeds in that space and solves the problem for your customer. Shagun, great question. As someone who's worked on B2B, B2C, B2B2C platforms, primarily you start your day as a B2C product manager, looking at your customer metrics, the product metrics, and optimize and ensure everything's in order. And then you move on to like looking at your roadmap, how your team is doing on a particular sprint, do customer reviews, market research, competitor research across all of these activities. Whereas in B2B product management, you typically start the day by not looking at metrics as much as your roadmap. So you had to still work with limited resources. You have to optimize how fast your team can build for a specific company, or sorry, a specific product. And you need to ensure you're untalking your team with the right information at every step. A lot more of your time will be involved in actually talking to your customers as a B2B product manager as compared to a B2C product manager. How to get PM role with non-tech background in Patna? So your location, to be honest, would not matter as much if you are looking at opportunities in a remote company. If a company has like work from office kind of a setup, then yeah, you're required to like probably we are based out of the same city. Uh, uh, so since a generic question, I'll share my 2 cents. So bagging the PM role with a non-tech background, the background, while it matters a little, it does not matter a lot, except some traits which you should be having. That includes understanding your user customers better than user problems better than your competitors, right? Having a good product sense to solve problems using software and applications. Be very savvy in terms of market research and data collation, right? To make your decisions. All of these traits can't be taught, right? I mean, they can be taught, but no, they don't particularly pertain to like whether you have a tech background or a non-tech background. If you're from a tech background, you're getting an advantage in only in one area, which is technology, right? You still need to like fundamentally strengthen all of the other pillars required for you to be a good product manager. So think about it as how can I get good at all of these other traits, right? which can compensate for my not having a tech background. And even if you're not having a tech background, you can still pick up the fundamentals of engineering, right? That's why we have very structured programs like PM School's 8-week live cohort. We go through every pillar in a rigorous fashion every week, one topic every week. We deep dive, we have assignments, we have peer grading, we have one-on-one mentorship to ensure you're like strengthening that pillar as you build your portfolio of your as you build your skill set required to crack the product manager interviews. So you mentioned that you might have to choose between enhancing versus revamping. Is there a way to avoid or minimize the revamp? Totally depends, Benedict. I suppose one of the reasons for revamp is that product is designed for. That is correct. The product is designed for specific customers in the initial stages. Now you want to like elaborate that particular feature or module for to support other kinds of customers as well. That's great. So revamping can also come in when your existing engineering stack is not able to support these new use cases for the same feature or module itself, right? That's where you have to like take a decision whether you have to like build it out from scratch instead of enhancing the code which is already there to build new features on top of it. It's totally subjective. I'm just giving you a potential example here. So how much does competitive research matter in B2C, B2B? I would say fairly well. You need to know who your competitors are, which game they are playing, how are they positioned, who are they targeting, and what features are they're making it attractive for these users, right? Then you have to find some space in the noise to position your product. So you have to keep an eye on your competitors because the customers are definitely knowing about your competitors because your competitors are always pitching to your customers as well if they share the common customers. Many JDs in LinkedIn for APM required 1 to 2 I would say years of experience in product management and a background of engineering. Yeah, I think Pushpam, great question. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so that's pretty unreasonable as an ask from companies, right? They're looking at APM role. They are looking at you having product experience. How does that correlate? A way to bridge that gap is you build to demonstrate expertise in being able to understand products and demonstrate product sense by doing a lot of these product breakdowns, right? Pick a product, break it down, and then figure out ways to improve it. Make it as a case study, as a portfolio. Share it with your companies you're applying in, right? As an add-on. So that way you are helping companies make the decision easier by by showing that you even though you do not have experience as a product manager, you have a potential to get there. How can I get experience product without actually getting it? And having a management background will definitely definitely help you in terms of like some of the non-tangibles. It could include like working with data, decision making frameworks. How do you like stakeholder management, right? If you have a management degree, you'll probably succeed a little better in B2B space, is what I feel. Any more questions, folks? All right, if there are no further questions, you can call a wrap to today's session. Oh, okay, fine. We have one from Shagun. So Shagun, long story short, you can, technically speaking, I have a lot of friends who have cracked technical product management roles without having like a computer software or software engineering degree, right? And this is in Amazon, it's in the Bay Area, etc. So it's all about you knowing very clearly what are the gaps, what are the expectations from companies in tech as a tech product manager, what are your current skill set, and figuring out a roadmap for you to like upskill and get there. That's it, as simple as that, right? Constantly, having a realistic eye of what companies are looking for is necessary, so that you can bridge the gap required. You can take specific roles and courses for you to like demonstrate you can get there as a precursor to applying to these companies as well. And you understanding the fundamentals of computer science, you're doing courses by yourself, putting it on LinkedIn that you completed a course from like a remote course on MIT, computer science, XYZ, right? From like basics to advanced computer science concepts. That's a great plus. And in our live cohort program, which incidentally starts in 2 weeks, folks, if anyone is interested, you should definitely reach out to Priyal from my team, or just apply on our website, or reach out to us in any of the social media platforms, and we'll get back to you. For engineering, we have very dedicated standalone module on the tech side, where we start with fundamentals of engineering concepts and how to use them, right? In having like a very meaningful conversations with your engineering teams. All right, if there are no further questions, folks, let's call it a day. Have a great rest of your week, and thank you for joining in. Please do reach out to us or check out the PM School's live cohort program. We start in 2 weeks. And thanks for joining today, taking your time out on a busy weekday to be part of this session. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Tarun, you can reach out to Priyal, who can share all the details. Or you can just go to pmschool.io and then look at and apply there directly. Thank you so much.